The third step in you finding your budget is figuring out your taxes. So, every person who makes money in the United States has to pay um, federal, state, and local taxes. So, this section is going to show you how to do that. The first thing you're going to do to find your taxes is to correctly calculate the amount of federal, state, and local taxes for the yearly income of your career. So, what I've done is I've included some slides to help you with that. Okay. We are kind of doing a simplified version of this. There are things that affect the amount of taxes that you would pay, but we're just going to kind of do the basics here. All right. In the United States, federal taxes are done in tax brackets. And what that means is the amount of taxable income that you make depends on, or I'm sorry, the taxes or the tax rate that you pay is based on the income that you make for that year. So, for instance, the less you make, the less you pay in taxes. Okay. The more you make, the more you pay in taxes. So, the first thing you're going to have to do is figure out how much federal taxes do you have to pay. The way you do this is you look at your yearly income from the previous section, right? So if I'm going off of a middle school math teacher, here's the income. Yearly starting rate is $40,000, $40,660. So I'm going to look on this table and I'm going to figure out where that falls. Okay, so I'm looking here, it just barely goes into this tax bracket here, right? Because 40,660 is more than this starting amount, but less than this amount, right? So it falls in here. So that means that that starting salary is going to pay 22% in federal taxes. If we use the example of the auto mechanic, um, that person or that job makes about 21,000. So think about where that might fall on this tax bracket. Um, so I'm looking here. I know that it's more than 9,000. So I go here. So it's more than this, but it's less than 40,000. So that starting salary is going to be taxed 12% for federal taxes. Okay. So that's the first thing you have to do. You also have to figure out your state and local tax amounts. So this one's a little bit easier because they're called a flat tax. And that means that Kentucky simply takes 5% of your income, and Louisville, the city, takes 2.2% of that income. So, for this particular part of the project, you're going to have to figure out what is that percentage of your income for all three areas. You also need to make sure that you're showing your work and try to be creative. Okay, so I've already done the calculations for mine, and I'm just going to show you how I'm going to put that together. I have to show this information on this slide, right? So there's many different ways that you could do this. You might look at the layout. You might choose to use a video. You might choose to use a poster that you've made. Um, I'm actually going to create a table because I like tables to kind of show information. So let's see here how I can do this. Let's see, did any layouts have a table in them? That's the first thing I might check. I see columns, but I'm not seeing tables. So I'm just going to kind of create my own. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put this up here, and I'm going to say it's my taxes. I'm actually going to get rid of this. And now I'm going to insert a table. You could insert a chart too. So you could actually do this in sheets and insert the table and make a chart. It's up to you. But I'm just going to do a table. So I know I want it to show the tax and then the amount. So I need to show, let's do 3 columns. or 3 rows. All right, so the first one I had to do was federal, and I had to do Kentucky, and then I had to do Louisville. Let's see. I'm also going to show the percentage. So I know that the federal taxes were, for the middle school teacher, was 22%. Kentucky's was 5%. Louisville was 2.2%. Okay, so I finished filling out this table. And even though, I've got the table, I kind of want to make it look a little bit nicer. So I can change my font to whatever I want. All right, let's do this one. I actually kind of want it a little bit larger. And the other thing is, I want to make sure I'm going to move. I don't like how big this is. So I'm actually going to make this table a little bit smaller. And I'm going to move it over here because, I have this table, but one of the other things I had to do was show my work, right? And what I did is I did my work on a piece of paper. So I'm now going to insert a picture of that. So I did the paper and then I took a picture of it and uploaded it into my Google Drive. So I'm now going to insert an image, and I want to make it come from my drive. Let's see. So show me some recent pictures. Let's see. I didn't see it. So I'm going to come into here and find where it was, where I put it. Okay, so now I'm going to select my image from my Google Drive and insert. So there is something I wanted to point out about my work. If you're planning on uploading any pictures, is think about, is it easy to see your work? Okay, so what I notice is, first of all, sometimes students write really small to where I can't see them, right? Or they use a very light colored pencil to do the work. If you're looking at this page, you can already see that I can see my Kentucky tax work and my Louisville tax work very easily. I used a marker to do that. The federal taxes, I used a pen, and it's not quite as easy to see. Now, you're going to want to check to see, is your work legible? Okay? Is it large enough? Is it dark enough? So if you're going to use a pencil, maybe consider pushing a little harder to make it come in darker, or going over it your pen if you're using pen. You can also check out, like, once I present it, it's fairly easy enough to see, so this is acceptable. Just make sure. Can you see the work? Think of it from the teacher's point of view, okay? Is it easy to read? And that shows how you find your taxes for your career. Don't forget, you probably also want to check out your rubric to see, did you do all of the things necessary, okay? There's a couple things that I did actually add. So for instance, please round all your tax amounts to the nearest cent. And I give some examples, right? So if you do your calculations and it comes up like this one, 567.3, well, you need to know that, oh yeah, we have to add a zero to show that that 0.3 is actually 3 10 cents or 30 cents, right? For this one, the calculation goes beyond the cent. So it's 28.947. Well, I have to know that that's $28.95 because this is going to round up. Okay. To get distinguished, you need to make sure that you correctly calculate the amount of your federal, state, and local taxes, and show your work for those amounts. you also need to make sure that you show this is actually cut off. You have to show it in a creative way. All right. The difference between distinguished and proficient is very little. This one might be proficient is everything the same except for it's not shown in a creative way. All right. So you might think to yourself, how could you spice this up a little bit? You might add a picture in here, maybe, work with your fonts, do something to try to make it a little creative. But definitely check out your different, the rubric, the different columns to see, can you do anything to try to get yours more towards distinguished?